Wes, du här min friend and welcome to yet another video. This video is a response to some requests or questions that I have received on my channel for the last couple of months or weeks really. And this request concerns the latest Star Wars TV show that is right now airing on Disney Plus, and it is called Andor. And the request was whether I'm going to watch it and review it for my channel. Well, the answer was and is quite simple and short: no. However, if you want to know why I'm done with Disney and anything that is being put out by that vile corporation in our day and age, I think you should go back and watch my Obi-Wan Kenobi reviews. I reviewed all the episodes, each and every single one of them, and well, quite shortly, Star Wars has become one huge joke. But in order for us to understand better why myself, and I believe that many of you as well, have completely and absolutely stopped consuming anything Star Wars or Disney, we often have to go back, don't we? Very, very far back to our childhood, when, in my case, at least, I grew up watching Star Wars. I saw the original trilogy for the first time when I was 3 years old. My father rented the VHSs for me, and I kept re-watching them over and over again. And then, of course, there was 1999. I was 6 years old, and the first film that I saw in theaters, that I actually went to cinema with my parents and watched, was Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. And that is why I belong among the people who actually like the prequel trilogy. It might have been caused from a huge part by the nostalgia aspect, but all in all, even if I look at those movies on their own, without me being a lifelong Star Wars fan and growing up watching even the prequel trilogy, I consider them to be quite good films. And they perfectly conclude, or really start, if you know what I mean, the entire saga of 6 films made by George Lucas, and really being the most iconic space opera ever created by a man. And then, of course, I was enjoying, when I was a kid and a teenager, and even in well, my later teens, and even nowadays, I do enjoy the good old Star Wars novels and graphic novels or comic books that are now labeled legends, because after the acquisition of Lucasfilm by Disney, they have, of course, labeled all the original stories, the expanded universe, legends, and now they are making their own canon, which they can't seem to be able to stick to, and they are breaking it each and every time they make something new, like a new TV show. Obi-Wan Kenobi is the prime example of it. And you can see that Star Wars has become just a cash cow, whose udder is to be milked until it's completely dry, and then, well, they keep milking it, even though the cow is screaming, "Enough! Enough! The udder is dry! I've got no more milk to give! I will die!" Well, even though this poor cow screams in agony, Kathleen Kennedy and all the other people involved in this, well, they just keep milking and milking and milking and milking. Well, I have to admit that even I got fooled for a little bit there when they put out The Mandalorian, because I thought that the first season was very well made. It was something new, a breath of fresh air into the, well, Star Wars universe after the abhorrent, awful, abominable Disney trilogy, the sequel trilogy, which, as later was proved, they didn't know what to do with it until the very end. They were constantly rewriting the script. They were being very, well, not nice towards some actors and characters that deserved more attention and much better writing in the sequel trilogy. Well, there were 2 characters who got very huge potential if being written by competent writers, and being handled by a competent a filmmaking company, and there was Finn and Kylo Ren. Now, those characters could have been great, but of course, everything had to be revolved around the Mary Sue Rey character, and the fact that what Disney wants these days is just to rehash what they have already done, and provide us with many member berries and nostalgia baits, that just so the old fans come back. But it's not about it, is it then? It's about the new message that Disney has been pushing in everything they had. And that is, alright, the Force is female, inclusion, representation, yada yada. It's not about Star Wars anymore. And even if those films were mediocre, even if those shows were mediocre and not bad, people do get overfed with anything. Just eat one and the same meal every day. Every single day of your life. You will get, tired of it very, very quickly. You will just want something else to eat. It's not just one thing all over and over again. It's the same with Star Wars. Too much Star Wars product will make people disgusted. In the last couple of years, we've had, alright, since the beginning of the sequel trilogy, we've had, 6 new Star Wars films, was it? The trilogy, there was Rogue One, there was the Solo. Was there another one? So maybe 5. See, I don't even remember. So there might have been 5 new films. I might be forgetting something because there has been just too much Star Wars content. And then the TV shows. So you've got The Mandalorian and you've got the Book of Boba Fett, which wasn't about the Boba Fett, really. It was like 2/3, less than a half. Let me correct myself. Less than a half of all of it was about Boba Fett, and then the rest was about The Mandalorian. So it was really Mandalorian season 2.5. And when they were focusing on Boba Fett, they have disgusted many fans by the fact that they have completely deconstructed the character of Boba Fett and who he was. And they had all the material to expand upon the character of Boba Fett. You can't use this as an argument. You can't use the fact that he only appeared in the original trilogy in a couple of scenes as an argument. But even from those couple of scenes, it was quite apparent that he was a badass. But then, of course, you have all the Dark Horse Comics comic books and all those expanded universe novels that they could have used to make Boba Fett cool. Well, they didn't. And then, of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi came, and that broke me. That was the breaking point. Up until Obi-Wan Kenobi, I was willing to watch the Star Wars TV shows, even if just for my reviews. And even for my previous channel that I had before, the European Lore channel. I thought, alright, so I might at least get some views out of it. And maybe there will be some bright moments. Some nostalgia baits that even I did enjoy from time to time. I have to be quite honest with you. Oh yes, I am guilty of actually liking The Mandalorian Season 1 and being excited about seeing the ending where Luke Skywalker appeared and saved everyone. Because he was the heroic Luke Skywalker that we all knew and remembered from the original trilogy. But that was then. And Obi-Wan Kenobi just proved, and just go back and watch my reviews. I can't go through it all again. They have Luke Skywalker at Obi-Wan Kenobi. They have made him into an incompetent, senile idiot. And they have eradicated and contradicted every single piece of Star Wars lore they could have. And not only the original extended universe and the original trilogy lore, but their own Star Wars, Disney Star Wars canon. Those episodes were contradicting everything, and even themselves between each other. And even in between those episodes, there were scenes that were contradicting each other. So very simply and simplistically put, the show was extremely badly made. It's never about ism or ists. They are trying to label us racists and whatever each and every time we don't like something, but that's the common practice today. It's the same with the Rings of Power. We know that. And by the way, the Rings of Power is really... I do the reviews just because Tolkien was the final straw. They came for Star Wars, they came for my dear, good, awesome comic books that I have enjoyed my entire life from Marvel and DC. So they came for them. They came for Doctor Who and Star Trek and all the other franchises that we and you and I love. And then they came for Tolkien, the thing that is the dearest of all these things to my heart. So that is why I continue torturing myself, watching the episodes and reviewing them. But I shall never, ever, whatsoever again consume any Star Wars product, new Star Wars product, even if for a review. And I know that there are people who are doing it, there are YouTubers who are doing it, who are absolutely not enjoying watching anything Star Wars that's new, or Marvel for that matter. People are watching She-Hulk just to get clicks, which I understand. I do. But I refuse. I refuse to waste my precious time on this earth, because you do understand that we will all die very soon, maybe. Some of us later. And we should try to use our time as best as possible. And I'm not wasting my time on She-Hulk just to get a couple of hundred of views more. Absolutely not. I know I would hate it as well as I know that I would hate this. And even if you just look at the articles that had been coming out before the release of Andor, what sort of advertisement is that for a TV show that a wide audience should enjoy? Just look at a collection of articles from bounding into comics, just months up until like days before the show came out. So Rotten Tomatoes approved critic John Rocca deletes blah 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 blah. White people shouldn't review Andor. What? Andor creator says he specifically set out to avoid fan service. Denise Cuff reveals a Star Wars character in Andor is surrounded by inept men that are lazy, slouching, kind of corner-cutting boys. Alright. Tony Gilroy says Andor is about real people. Okay. Andor actor Denise Cuff claims the character arc will address gender politics. Alright. Fiona Shaw describes new Star Wars series Andor as great scurrilous take on the Trumpian world. What do you mean, Trumpian world? I thought he wasn't a president anymore, and even if he was, well, I come from Europe. I don't care about the American politics. When I watch Star Wars, I just want a Star Wars universe, good old escapism, quality-made shows that make sense. Very well written. With some blasters and lightsabers. No? Alright, so fine, okay. So, these are the many reasons why I have stopped consuming anything Star Wars, because I want to love Star Wars. These are my finishing thoughts. I want to love Star Wars as much as I want to love Lord of the Rings. I want to love Star Trek. I want to love Batman. American comic books in general. I want to rewatch and reread the good old versions and representations of these things. I don't want to spoil my mind with the new ones that are only trying to deconstruct everything I've always loved. So there is always a breaking point with everything. With Star Wars, new Disney Star Wars, it was Obi-Wan Kenobi. From now on, I refuse to watch or review anything that is connected with Disney Star Wars. I won't even look at The Mandalorian Season 3 or whatever, no matter how they will hype the trailer. If people recommend it enough to me that it is the best thing ever made since The Empire Strikes Back, then I will watch it. But if my predictions are correct, and the reviews of Andor Look, once again, bounding into comics, the epitome of terrible. If it's going to be the same as all the other products made by Disney, if it's going to be shite, why would I waste my time on it? I will rather rewatch the original trilogy. Alright, let me know in the comments down below what you think, and that will be all. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm out of here.